It was August of 1776. The American Revolution had reached a moment of extreme danger. For more than a year, rebellion had spread across Britain's North American colonies. Shots had been fired, armies raised, and blood spilled. Yet the conflict was still undecided. Now it was about to be tested at one of the most important strategic locations in the colonies, New York. Across the Atlantic, Britain had prepared its response on a scale never before attempted. Transports arrived steadily from England, Ireland, Germany, and the Caribbean, carrying soldiers, artillery, horses, and supplies. By late summer, the largest expeditionary force Britain had ever sent overseas stood ready for action. Its mission was simple: end the rebellion. At dawn on August 22nd, thousands of British troops crossed the water in flat-bottom boats and landed at Gravesend Bay on Long Island. Loyalist civilians welcomed them with food, supplies, and valuable intelligence about the local terrain. Within days, more than 20,000 professional soldiers stood poised for action. Commanding them was General William Howe. Howe now held overwhelming superiority in numbers, training, and equipment. He believed the rebellion could be crushed in a single decisive campaign. Across the river, General George Washington faced a far harsher reality. On paper, the Continental Army numbered around 20,000 men. In truth, many were sick, undertrained, or nearing the end of their enlistments. Disease spread through the camps. Supplies were scarce. Discipline was uneven. A few regiments were experienced and reliable. Most were not. Washington knew he could not defeat the British in open battle, but geography left him few good choices. He feared that the British landing on Long Island might be a diversion, a feint designed to draw his army away from Manhattan and the Hudson River. If the Hudson fell, the colonies would be cut in two.
Quiet, keep
So
rowing.
Washington
Forces are close.
divided his forces. Some troops defended Manhattan. Others were sent to hold the ridges and forested hills east of Brooklyn. They guarded narrow passes through the heights of Guam, natural choke points that offered the only hope of delaying the British advance. It was a dangerous
Quickly now,
gamble.
move inland.
At dawn on August 27th, British forces advanced. Musket fire echoed through the woods.
They've given us the
Cannon thundered across
Birds
the
flown.
hills. For the first time, the Continental Army faced British regulars on open ground. At first, the Americans held their positions. The terrain worked in their favor. Narrow roads and wooded slopes slowed the advance. For several hours, the fighting remained balanced. But behind the scenes, General Howe was executing a decisive maneuver. British scouts had discovered a little-known fourth pass through the hills, lightly guarded and poorly watched. During the night, 10,000 troops moved silently through it. By morning, British forces were behind the American lines. When American commanders realized what had happened, the situation unraveled rapidly. Pressure mounted from multiple directions. Communication broke down. Units found themselves isolated. Some attempted to withdraw in good order, others broke completely. Only a handful of regiments stood their ground, buying time at terrible cost. From Brooklyn Heights, Washington watched the disaster unfold. He could do nothing to stop it. The Battle of Long Island was a catastrophe. Thousands of American soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured. 2 senior generals were taken prisoner. British losses were comparatively light. And worse still, the surviving American army was now trapped.
Driven back into Brooklyn, their backs pressed against the East River, the Continentals faced destruction. British troops began digging siege lines. Rain poured down. Supplies dwindled. Morale collapsed. An immediate assault might have ended the rebellion that very day. but General Howe hesitated. Memories of earlier battles still haunted Howe. He feared another costly assault and believed the Americans were trapped and would soon surrender. That hesitation saved the revolution. On the night of August 29th, under cover of darkness and aided by thick fog, Washington ordered a withdrawal. Boats moved silently across the East River. Men, artillery, and supplies were ferried to Manhattan with extraordinary discipline. By dawn, the British found abandoned fortifications. Washington had escaped annihilation, but the campaign continued. In September, British forces landed again at Kip's Bay. American defenses collapsed almost immediately. Soldiers fled in confusion. Washington attempted to rally them, but his authority failed. British troops soon entered New York City unopposed. The city fell. Days later, massive fires swept through its streets, destroying entire neighborhoods and leaving thousands homeless as winter approached. The rebellion appeared to be collapsing. Through autumn, British forces pressed their advantage. At White Plains, Washington fought a delaying action before withdrawing again. At Fort Washington, an isolated American garrison was surrounded and captured almost in its entirety. One defeat followed another. Washington's army shrank with every march. Enlistments expired. Desertion increased. By early December, fewer than 6,000 soldiers remained. Many believed the cause of independence was finished. British commander Rushvander certainly did. They issued proclamations offering pardons to those who swore loyalty to the crown. Thousands accepted. British troops settled into winter quarters across New Jersey. Washington retreated across the Delaware River, yet he refused to surrender. He understood that one sharp blow, one undeniable success, could change everything. As Christmas approached, Washington prepared a bold plan. On the night of December 25, 1776, his army gathered beside the ice-choked Delaware River. Snow and sleet lashed the boats. The crossing was dangerous. Failure would mean destruction. Through the night, men and guns were ferried across the river. The operation was slow, exhausting, and risky. Several units failed to cross in time. Washington pressed on regardless. Before dawn, his army advanced toward the town of Trenton. The garrison there was unprepared. Within an hour, the operation was complete. Hundreds of enemy soldiers were captured. American losses were minimal. It was a stunning victory. Days later, Washington struck again at Princeton. At a critical moment, he rode forward himself, steadying his men under fire. By afternoon, the British withdrew. These victories were small by European standards, but their impact was enormous. They revived American morale, restored confidence, and convinced foreign powers that the rebellion might yet survive. As winter set in, Washington led his army into secure quarters. They were battered, they were exhausted, but they were still standing, and the war for American independence was far from over.